Welcome to the Lyman Lipke Guitarcast, the Q&A edition. If you've never been here before, this is a twice-weekly show where once a week I rant at the camera for about an hour, and then another once a week I answer your questions to try to help you become a better guitar player, or at least closer to the guitar player that you want to be. Before we get into the questions, I've got this little preset that I built in my Vailton GP200 called Ballpark Organ. I am a baseball fan. I don't know if I speak about that online, but I would love to be a ballpark organist, except I don't play keyboards well. This preset came about from one of the Wild Giants presets. What was left over when I hit my control button, my switcher, ended up sounding kind of like an organ when it was really, a heavy, distorted patch. I could get into like the technicals of how I run the Vailton GP200, but maybe in another show. Main point, happy accident, refined it. I think it sounds pretty... if you don't have a reference for what a ballpark organ sounds like, it sounds pretty close. If you have a reference for what it sounds like, you'd probably be able to tell a lot of differences. So I've been having a lot of fun with that. See what I can do with like my regular jazz lines. And a chord melody. Days of Wine and Roses, one of my favorite tunes. Let's jump into some questions. Tyler asks, what kind of warm-up routine do you do, and what is your typical practice? So a two-part question. So as far as warm-ups go, usually something scalar. I'm trying to get the left hand going first. So sometimes I'll, pick everything, sometimes I'll legato everything. And then once left hand's working, I'll concentrate a little bit more on warming up the picking hand. And that was all 7 positions. Usually by the time I get done playing through the 7 positions, ascending and descending, I've started to get warm. And then I'll probably do some other exercise within those positions. Scales and thirds. Enclosures. Maybe, break it up, do something different in each position. And then by the time I've gone through the second thing, I'm warm with single notes. And then I'll play usually the C6 diminished as drop 2s on the top 2 sets. And then again as drop threes. And one thing that I like to incorporate into my warm-ups is something that is that was part of my routine for a long time, like my practice routine. That's gotten a lot easier. It's almost automatic. That part I still need to practice, but up until then, that is almost automatic. And again, the idiot forgets to tune. Could cut this out, but I don't think I'm going to, because I'm lazy. All right, we were pretty close. So, single note ideas in position, like scales ascending, descending, and then one of the things that I have automatically, like the scales in thirds, diatonic seventh chords with scale descent, and enclosures. Those are all pretty automatic for me. I would like to get to the point where this is automatic. And then, as far as what I practice when I'm once I'm all warm, is I have a pretty good idea of the things that I can do on the guitar and the things that I play, and I understand the things that I'm missing that I want. So that's an important thing when choosing what to practice. What do you actually want in your playing? And can you identify that? One thing that I recommend is you record yourself playing. I get to do that because I create content on the internet, and so I have to record the content to get it out to you guys. And usually I have to watch it back a couple times during the editing process. So I get a very close look at what I'm currently doing. And right now I'm hearing a lot of things that I'm missing, as far as like wider intervals and like that was the big thing. I wanted wider intervals in my playing, and I've got the exercise for that. 2/5 down a diatonic ninth chord, up 2/4, down a triad, down another triad. Now we're a note above where we started. 2/5, down a ninth chord, up a fourth, down a third, fourths, down a triad, down the next triad. So that gives me a couple of wide, modern sounding intervals. Perfect fifths, perfect fourths. Actually, diatonic fifths and fourths, because right here, that's just a diatonic fourths. There's an augmented fourth and a perfect fourth. Augmented fourth again. So that exercise gets me comfortable with the larger intervals. So that's something that I've been practicing a lot. The contrary motion. There's a system to this as well. Like note from C6, like this is the C6 diminished scale. Note from C6. Notes from D diminished in a third. Notes from C6 in a fifth. So this is a fifth in the sixth diminished scale, believe it or not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So one note, third, fifth with a third below, fifth with a third below with the low note doubled up the octave, and then drop 2, drop 3, drop 2 and 4, and then either a drop 2 with the soprano doubled down 2 octaves, or a drop 2 and 4 with the bass doubled up 2 octaves, and then an extra wide. And so that's repeatable. So if I'm starting on a note from C6, just alternate. If I'm starting on a note from D diminished, you can still alternate. D diminished, C6, D diminished, C6, D diminished, C6, D diminished, C6, D diminished, C6. Mainly just practicing the major 6 diminished scale. Once I can incorporate things like the minor 6 diminished scale and the dominant 7 diminished scale, like I feel like that's going to be a very useful tool for improvising cool chord melodies. Like I can already kind of use it for arrangements. So, Fly Me to the Moon. Extra wide. That doubled voice. Drop 2 and 4. And I can resolve to the D minor 7 or F6 by using an E diminished. There's my E. And then I can go back contrary in the same direction. Contrary. And the chord here would actually be, I'm not sure if that's possible to grab in that manner, so. That would be the chord. I don't know that 6 diminished scale yet. So those are things that are on the agenda. This is a lifelong pursuit, the contrary motion, the chords. So warm up with things that I'm comfortable with and things that have just become like internalized and automatic in my playing. Single note and quarterly, and then for single notes I'm doing an exercise to get wider intervals, and then for chords I'm doing the contrary motion. But really it's about identifying what you want, the thing that you wish you could do in your playing. Identify what that is, and then find an exercise that can get you there efficiently. And I mean, I could look for exercises to get the things into my playing that I'm missing, but I'm weird lazy. I think to myself, why would I look for it if I could just come up with something? And if I come up with something, it could be useful for others. So I always try to document my exercises. The exercises that I've given to my students, most of them were things that I thought up for me, and I just tabbed out because I thought it would be useful another day. Next question. I love music, but music theory scares me. How can I overcome this? Okay, I'm going to start this off with a little anecdote. Antidote? With a little antidote. Somebody commented on one of my theory posts, saying this stuff was hard. And I looked at his Instagram profile, and he was an actual rocket scientist. And I said something to the effect of, you're a rocket scientist. I like music theory. You are playing 5D chess, and I'm sitting here eating checker pieces. I like the red ones because they're strawberry. A lot of people make it out to be more complicated than it needs to be. I said this in the last Q&A. To get started, we're just counting letters. And I mean, this is just Western music theory. Counting letters, building the circle of fifths, and learning to spell the major keys. If you can do that, you have a strong set of tools to start to learn things about intervals and triads. And so here's a little thing we can do to build the circle of fifths. If you listened and learned those two sequences of letters that I told you to learn, F, C, G, D, A, E, B, B, E, A, D, G, C, F, we can use that to start building our circle of fifths. So, circle of fifths. There's 12 slots. It's exactly like a clock face, which means we can use that to sort of get our bearings. 12 o'clock. C, center of the universe. No sharps, no flats. We move clockwise away from C. We start to add sharps from our order of sharps. So key at 1 o'clock has 1 sharp, F sharp. Key at 2 o'clock has 2 sharps, F sharp, C sharp. Key at 3 o'clock has 3 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp. So they're additive. Till we get to 7 o'clock, which has 7 sharps. Means every letter has a sharp next to it. How do we figure out what is at each hour? Well, that sequence of letters, F, C, G, D, A, E, B, that's what happens on the circle of fifths from 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock. So F, 11 o'clock, C, 12 o'clock, G, 1 o'clock, D, 2 o'clock, A, 3 o'clock, E, 4 o'clock, B, 5 o'clock. If you want another proof for that, F at 11 o'clock, hold your fingers. F, G, and since we're on G, we got to go back to A, B, C. When you get to 5, we're just counting letters. That's the next letter we're going to use. So C, I'm holding my fingers up. D, E, F, G. So the next hour would be G. G, A, B, C, D, 2 o'clock, D. D, E, F, G, A, 3 o'clock, A. A, B, C, D, E, 4 o'clock, E. E, F, G, A, B, 5 o'clock, B. B, C, D, E, F. Now we have a problem. We've already used F. So if we're going in the sharp direction, it's going to be an F sharp. So at 6 o'clock, we've got the key of F sharp with 6 sharps. F, G, A, B, C. So at 7 o'clock would be C sharp. All the letters have sharps. And in C major, all of the letters have naturals. So C is an all or nothing key. If it's C sharp, it's got all the sharps. If it's C flat, it's got all the flats. If it's C natural, it's got all the naturals. This is something that I've seen happen with some people when I teach them to build the circle of fifths, and I've been trying to figure out how to make this not happen. Like, oh, we're counting letters. Yes, we count letters. So when you get to key of C sharp at 7 o'clock, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, G sharp at 8 o'clock. No, because we've run out of sharps. If we that would be a key with 8 sharps, and there are only 7 letters. So one of those letters would have an extra sharp next to it. Be F sharp sharp, or F and the little double sharp symbol, which is an X. Meaning that's a dumb key. Like, don't live in that key. Like, let's spell out the key of G sharp. G sharp, A sharp, B sharp, C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, that's supposed to be the letter F, because all the keys need to have all the letters. But it sounds just like my open G string, meaning it's a half step above F sharp, but it still needs to be the letter F. So that's F double sharp. That's stupid. Don't live there. So once we get to 7 o'clock, no more sharp keys. We can do the reverse. And if you noticed, we had F at 11 o'clock, and when we went through all the letters, F, C, G, D, A, E, B, started again. F and F sharp and C sharp. So logic dictates if we're going through the flat keys, same thing is going to happen. So F at 11 o'clock, we move counterclockwise. I always get confused with the camera, like what direction you see it. This is the way a clock goes counterclockwise from my point of view. F is at 11 o'clock, so 10 would be B, but it's got to be a flat. So B flat, 10 o'clock, E flat, 9 o'clock, A flat is at 8 o'clock. Is it? Yes. D flat is at 7 o'clock. But we already had a key at 7 o'clock. C sharp. C sharp. Here's C natural, there's C sharp. Here's D natural, here's D flat. They are called enharmonic equivalents, which is a fancy way of saying sounds the same but spelled different. And I know it's the correct way to say that is spelled differently, but I like to ooga booga my music theory. Sounds the same, spelled different. So we have two keys at 7 o'clock. One key with 5 flats, one key with 7 sharps. At 6 o'clock, we've got a key with 6 flats. G flat, F, and then B, E, A, D, G. So that's the 6th flat key because F is a flat key. It's 6. G flat, 6 flats. B, E, A, D, G, C. So at 5 o'clock, we've got the key of C flat, which has all the flats. All 7 letters have a flat. And so if you counted 7 sharp keys, 7 flat keys, 1 key with all the naturals, that's 15 keys. However, we've got 3 keys that share the same sound as 3 other keys. So that's why people say, do your stuff in all 12 keys. Like, do your stuff in all 12 sounds. When really there are 15 key signatures. Do you need to practice in all 15 keys? I'm not going to be the arbiter of that. I'm not throwing my hat in the ring there. So, like that, it's pretty simple. And it all started from just memorizing that sequence of letters, F, C, G, D, A, E, B, B, E, A, D, G, C, F. And then it's 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock on a clock face. Like, organize it like that. 7 sharp keys, 7 flat keys. That will get you started with spelling your major pitch collections. So a key with 1 sharp, all letters, F sharp. 2 sharps, all letters, F sharp, C sharp. 11 o'clock, all the letters, B flat. 10 o'clock, all the letters, B flat, E flat, etc., until we get to all the letters have sharps or flats next to them. They'll never be mixed together in major keys. And then I'll give you one more. A triad, a diatonic triad, just skipping every other letter till you have 3 letters, or skipping every other note till you have 3 notes. So I'll keep it simple. Key of C. C, skip this note. E, skip this note. G. That's a triad. What kind of triad is it? Well, a few ways to approach that. One of the ways that I like to think about it is the chords built off of degrees 1, 4, and 5 are major triads. You skip every other note from one of those degrees, it's going to be a major triad. 2, 3, and 6, those are going to be minor triads. So skipping every other note. That sounds like a minor chord. Another minor chord, that's third degree. Fourth degree, major chord. Fifth degree, major chord. Sixth degree, major chord. Seventh degree, we got a diminished chord. So 1, 4, 5, major, 2, 3, 6, minor. And any combination of those letters will lead to that sound. So if I take this E right here and put it up the octave, that's still a C major triad because it has C, G, and E. If I order those letters as close together as possible, starting from the root, I've got the triadic formula. I can move every note to the next available note. C becomes E, G becomes C, E becomes G, still C major. Still C major. You can add this note, another E. Got an E here, but I added another one. It still only contains those three letters. So, I mean, that's a good place to start with music theory. Like learning how to spell the scales and then getting used to skipping every other letter till you have three letters. And then you apply the requisite sharps or flats to that key signature, and then your starting letter, figure out what degree it is. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1. You can build your, you can spell your scales and your chords. So, write yourself up a circle of fifths, or at least start it. 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock. F, C, G, D, A, E, B. As far as music theory is also concerned, one of my friends that I met via the social media channels, Jim Lapbap, says everything is music theory. Any words we use to describe music is music theory. So, like, a word like song, to describe something with a melody that is sung, sometimes with words. That's what a song is. That's music theory. Rhythm, the act of putting our musical notes in a sequence of time, usually evenly divided. That's music theory. So you already know a bunch of music theory. You just probably don't know, like, you know, the academic terms. And there are a lot of academics who will, you know, try to make things out to sound really academic, like make you feel like you're getting your money's worth at music college. As far as I'm concerned, you could call this a Flugeldorp and a Gingelbop. And if you know what those mean, like in your brain, you've invented your own music theory. If you can assign that consistently, like in, you know, standard music theory terminology, if I'm in the key of C, this is 1, 5. 1 chord, 5 chord. But if you've got your own way to think about it, and it's consistent, and it makes sense to you, like, have fun. Like, I'm not here to be a fun police. The problem is it doesn't always make sense. Your own theories don't always... It's not always going to make sense. So if it's not consistent, like, regular Western music theory terminology works quite well to describe things. It's not a perfect system, but it's been developed over hundreds of years, and most of it was developed hundreds of years ago. So it's just a way to describe what we hear. If you can play what you hear, and you hear good things, you don't need theory. Problem there is, it's really hard to play what you hear. And I would say it's even harder to hear things that are good. Things that are good, you know, objectively, subjectively, and like your own taste. So, theory is only going to help you with the descriptors. It's descriptive, not prescriptive. Next question. What can we play for dominant chord? Like Mixolydian, Lydian dominant. I think you're asking about pitch collections. So I've got a video coming out about. I actually dropped a video. Like it came out. What melodic minor scales we can use over a dominant chord. And let me get my freeze button happening. This is a cool thing that the GP200 has. The freeze feature. I can play a chord, and it will freeze the chord that I played. So I was just playing a G7 sound. So we can use melodic minor scales built off of half step above, whole step below, fourth or fifth above or below, or a minor 6 chord built a whole step below the root. So root here is G. We can play a F minor 6. Any melodic minor scale built off of one of the notes in F minor 6. So that'd be F, A flat, C, and D. F melodic minor. A flat melodic minor. That's your altered scale. C melodic minor, that's your Mixolydian flat 6. And D melodic minor, that's your Lydian dominant. Any of those scales you can use over a dominant chord, and it's cool to try to mix them together. Like, if you can mix between those 4 sounds seamlessly, like you'll never run out of stuff to play over dominant chords. And I screwed up my freeze function. Let me get that set up again. Hit the save button. That's very important. All right, so freeze should work now. C melodic minor, D melodic minor, A flat melodic minor, F melodic minor, all sorts of stuff you can do. So those are 4 real good scales, pitch collections, to use over dominant chords. But really, play the changes. Play the notes that are changing. Like what changes from D minor 7 to G7. That biggest change is this note goes here. So highlighting that change. That's what playing the changes means. So build a minor 6 chord a whole step below your dominant chord, and you can use any of the melodic minor scales built off of any note in that minor 6 chord. Cool? Cool. Next question. And this one got a double exclam reaction. How do you stay motivated to practice? That is a good question. Tough for a lot of people. And it's going to be different for everybody. Like, how I stay motivated to practice is I'm finally seeing some progress after 22 years. No, it's an old joke that a 80 or 90-year-old cellist said. Why do you practice after so many years? Because I'm finally starting to see some progress. So, like, I know, like, the ceiling of what can be done with this instrument. And I want to get as close to touching it as possible. And I can't do that without practicing. So it's less of a, I gotta motivate myself to practice. It's more of a, like, self-evident. Like, I'm never gonna get to that place without the practice. So I just have to do the practicing. And it doesn't have to be boring for me. Like, it's seldom boring because I only practice things that I want to hear in my playing and I want to be able to do. Or I practice material for a performance that's coming up. That's the other thing that I practice. There's a pretty good motivator there. Money. And if you screw up, if you didn't prepare properly for your performance, you're going to get fired. And that means money goes away. So that's a good motivator. I mean, like, there's a lot of it that has to do with, like, how much do you really want this thing? Like, I mean, there have been times that I tried to quit music. I really wanted to quit music, but I kept coming back. So this is a hard question to answer because it's gonna be different for everybody. If you're not feeling motivated to practice, start building a routine. And don't do something stupid like, you practice like a couple times a month, and then you say, okay, I'm gonna start practicing 2 hours a day. That's stupid. Like, that is a wild change. Like, even an hour a day from nothing is a wild change. Start small. Try to get 10 minutes of focused practice in. Use a timer. Like, have a countdown timer. And practice a concept that you're missing. I'm gonna guess, for a lot of you, it's the major scale in all the positions. Learn that. And spend 10 minutes every day. You gotta keep it consistent. 5 days a week is okay. 6 days a week is good. Like, I'm very happy with 6 days a week. I will accept 5 days a week from my students. 7 is wonderful. Like, if you can do 10 minutes of practice every day for 7 days a week, like, you're gonna see so much improvement. What I ask for my students is 15 minutes a day. So try to set a time, like, every day. Like, okay, this is going to be my practice time. And, like, set it, like, within, like, a range, like a 2-hour range. Like, okay, I'm going to put my 15 minutes here, somewhere in this 2 hours. So, you're doing something. You don't have to drop what you're doing. And play consistently. Like, build that habit. And if 15 minutes isn't enough, you can keep pushing it, especially if you're younger and you have a lot of time. The summer between my junior and senior year, I was practicing 8 hours a day, upright bass with the metronome, learning all of my 2-octave scale fingerings, and trying to get better time, learning tunes, that kind of stuff. And I saw massive improvement. Like, there's 8 hours, like, every day, like, probably 5 days a week. Between my junior and senior year and my senior and after my senior year, Like, I rode on that practice period for years and years, like 7 years, before I got back into, like, really consistent, focused practice. But that's wild. You got to build up to it, or have a differently wired brain. So start small, and do it every day. Like, even if you don't want to. Like, after a couple months, if you've done it 5-6 times a week, it's a habit at this point. You don't have to practice stuff that sucks. Practice stuff that you want to hear in your playing. Practice songs. Like, a lot of people say, like, learning songs is the way to go. I think that it is a way to go. I love creating exercises that are musical. So when I play the exercise, there are things in that exercise that I can use, like, as a musical phrase, like my enclosure exercise. I use those enclosures all the time. I was playing thirds and fourths as well. Things that I practiced that were musical. Small rhythms. Start small. Just do it every day for 2 months. And you'll build the habit. And you will miss days. If you miss a few days, you'll want to get back to it. And if you don't, like, that's okay. Like, keep in mind, this is only if you want to improve your playing. If you like how you play and you have fun with it, like, you win. Like, that's it. Like, you're winning. Like, if where you are, if you've accepted that, just play whatever you want and have fun. Like, have it be your, hobby, stress release, creative outlet, whatever. But if you want to, try to make a career in this, like, no way around. Gotta practice. Either that or be incredibly lucky and just have that gene where you can write songs that resonate with most people. Next question. In my opinion, what are the foundational blocks which theory are built? So, foundational blocks that theory is built on. Imagine this is like first steps to take. Learn the major scale, learn how to play it in a couple places, then learn how to spell all the major scales. And to do that, you need to learn those 7 letters and build a circle of fifths. And learn how to spell all the triads, skipping every other letter until you have 3 letters. If you can do that, you've got a very, very strong foundation. That was a quick question. Next, it's because I went over that a little bit. Apologies, my earbud popped out. Next question. How to practice major and minor thirds and their application. Do it within your scale patterns. So, I call it 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So, here's my 4th position of C major. 2 scale steps forward, 1 scale step back. 2 scale step forward, 1 scale step back. So, the same principle applies as the triads. The thirds built off of the 1, 4, 1st, 4th, and 5th degrees are major. 2, 3, 6, and 7 are minor. So, if I skip a note after the 2nd degree, it's a minor third. Skip a note after the 3rd degree, minor third. Skip a note after the 6th degree, minor third. Skip a note after the 7th degree, minor third. So their application, they're very melodic. Like, you can build lots of melodies with steps and thirds. build triads with thirds. Build seventh chords with thirds. So that's how you practice it, and the practical application. They exist everywhere, naturally. 1, 4, 5 are major thirds. 2, 3, 6, 7 are minor thirds. Next question. What are some practical kinds of enclosures you can train your ear with? Diatonic enclosures. Diatonic single enclosures. So a scale step below, a scale step above, and the target note. And we actually get that in our thirds exercise. And then chromatic enclosures, above and below. You can do a below and above. I'm not the biggest fan of that sound. They do exist. But above and below, chromatically. Below and above. Above and below. So, let's put what we do for a diatonic enclosure, and then put a chromatic enclosure above and below. So, that's cool. I don't like that one. So, right here, that's the kind of enclosure I would play, like a double chromatic enclosure. So be able to recognize that, and omit one of the notes, like omit the very first note. So I can use that to enclose every note of a triad. And that's something cool I could play over C major. That isn't just... could also enclose down an E minor triad, which is a C major 7th without the root. So learn to hear those and then learn to play those. If you hear something that might sound like an enclosure, transcribe it. Write it down. Find it on your instrument. And see if it's repeatable throughout the scales, or if anything gets screwed up. Or, transcribe it, analyze it, see if it's really an enclosure or not. As far as I'm concerned, an enclosure are notes that surround above and below, or below and above, a target note. That's a good diatonic enclosure. Both directions. So, below, above, target. Above, below, target. So, build the enclosures. Like, build those enclosures that I just went over. And get them internalized in your ear and see if you can hear those in jazz recordings. I bet you will. What's one song I can never listen to? You know how some kids like grow up like in cults and like they have like religious propaganda shoved down their throats I didn't have that, but I did have some musical propaganda shoved down my throat that I haven't been able to shake. My pops played in the same clubs that Pearl Jam was playing in the time Pearl Jam was coming up. And Eddie Vedder must have done something to rub my father the wrong way. Because my dad hates Eddie Vedder. So, I wasn't allowed to listen to Pearl Jam. And to this day, like, I can't really listen to Pearl Jam. Because I hear this song that my dad made up. Eddie Vedder sucks. I mean, I'm sure he's a fine guy. And like, lots of people like his music. Got a cool voice. Pearl Jam sounds cool. Like, I can't get into them. Like, I have not shaken the indoctrination. But Dad's got a lot of, good things to say about Nirvana. Playing the same clubs as Nirvana when they were coming up. So must have just been something that Eddie Vedder did. And another, but that's more like a band. A specific song that I cannot stand, which is great because my wife can't stand it and my father-in-law can't stand it. My dad definitely can't stand it. Red Red Wine, because my dad played in a reggae and soca band, so every time they played, they like that was their freebird. Like, somebody would yell "Red Red Wine," so you grew to hate that song, and passed it down to me. So Red Red Wine, I can't really listen to. And final question. Technique you wish you had learned properly from the beginning. And Oscar asks that. Oscar's come in with some great questions. So, I started my musical journey on the viola. And a few months after that, like, I switched to violin and got a violin teacher. And my violin teacher really, like, I wanted to learn how to do vibrato because, like, when screeching on the strings with straight tone out of tune sounded bad. So I wanted to learn how to, shape the note, like, make it sound better and hide my crappy intonation. And so I asked her, hey, I want to learn how to do vibrato. And she put me on this big, like, 4-month long training regimen to get ready to do vibrato properly. And she really drilled it into me, like, if you don't do this properly, it can lead to injury. So that scared me. How true is that? There's probably some truth to it. So it started, like, on the violin, not the guitar, but, like, you'd have, you'd go all the way up and down the neck, trying to keep everything loose. And then after a couple weeks, you'd shorten that stroke until you are at one note. I don't know if that comes through on the fretted guitar, because we got frets. Actually, I will grace you guys with a little bit of a treat for the end of the podcast. I'll break out the fretless guitar, because your loose finger vibrato on a fretless guitar, you can definitely hear that. My vibrato is very, very loose because of that. And one thing, like, I cannot... Another thing that grinds my gears is guitar player vibrato. A lot of times, guitar players will just tense everything up to vibrate their strings. Which leads to the fact that, or the problem that they only have one speed and one depth and one intensity of vibrato. And usually it's not a very good one. Like, something like that. Being loose allows me to really control the speed and depth. Like, you can think of it as like a vibrato pedal. You have a depth knob and a speed knob. How fast the modulation is happening and how wide it's happening. And so when I was learning vibrato, I had to go back. Like she said, if you're not getting it, you will go back to a previous step. And I had to go back like either 1 or 2 times. So that drilled in me, like, do it right the first time. And if it hurts, stop. So I got a lot of really, really good information for general string playing from my violin days and from my upright bass days. And all of that came back to guitar. There aren't very many things on the guitar that I feel like, I wish I would have learned that properly. One thing is, I wish I would have learned a positioning system for the major scales on the guitar when I was 15. If I would have done that, I would probably be a lot further than where I am now. However, I had a conversation with a friend, and she used to call me just to hear me play guitar and practice. And I'd just be playing the same song over and over again. Something like, just be playing that over and over again. And I told her, like, I really wish I would have put, like, serious work in rather than doing that. And she said, you know what you were doing? You were fostering your love of the instrument. If you didn't sit there and play that Red Hot Chili Peppers song for hours, you may not have wanted to continue the guitar. And that was a very, very good point. So, don't practice at the expense of your fun. Like, this thing's gotta be fun. But I'll give you something actual with the technique that I wish I would have learned properly. I still got time. Proper... Ooh, that's... Deliberate alternate picking. I rarely use deliberate alternate picking when crossing strings. I am an economy picker. What does that mean? It means when I change strings towards the floor, I always use a downstroke, and when I change strings towards the ceiling, I always use an upstroke. So that scale position would be down, up, down, 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 down, up, down. So the same exact thing is happening on all the strings. And this is a downstroke, so when I go back down, it's up, down, up, down, up. And then the pattern, up, down, up, that is the new pattern. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. That sort of fits into my philosophy of, like, economy of motion. Like, moving as little as possible. That's my life philosophy, not just with music. As I can feel more and more in my old age as my shirts get tighter. But, like, alternate picking does have a little bit of a different sound. So, like, I wish I would have, like, given that a fair go and really thought about it. In conjunction with the economy picking, so I could be able to use that as a sound, like a deliberate choice for the sound, rather than something that I am hindered by. but at this point, like, my technique is pretty, like, locked in. Like, it's harder to break bad habits or habits at all the older you get or the longer you've been doing something. So if something's not sounding the way I want it to sound with economy picking, I address it there and try to get it to sound the way that I want it to sound. All right. It is just past the hour mark. Got to keep this one a little bit shorter than the last few Q&As. I greatly appreciate you. Please share this podcast with a friend. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. If you're a Spotify listener, follow on Spotify. And leave questions in the comments so I don't have to bother the people in my broadcast channel every week to get some questions. But, you know, if you broadcast folks who are here are digging that, then I appreciate you immensely. And I'll keep doing that too. And you'll get priority questions answered. But that's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for listening. If you're confused on any of the stuff that I talked about, please reach out for a lesson or weekly lessons or semi-monthly lessons. I love teaching. That's my happy place. There have been many days where I'm playing a game of chess on my phone before I start teaching, and I lose. I blunder. I'm just irrationally upset about it. And within 2 minutes of jumping into a lesson, I'm as happy as a clam. It is my happy place. So, if you study with me, not only will you be gaining valuable guitar knowledge and guitar skills, you'll also be making me a happier, kinder person. Is that a perk for you? No, but it's a perk for me. So I appreciate y'all, and I will see you on Monday with the next lecture podcast. Bye!